Today is the 3rd of March, and as we currently speak, all 3 bottom teams in Premier League are looking like they'll be going down again. And the worst part about this is the fact that it is, again, the 3 promoter sides all languishing in the bottom 3. With right now, no hope whatsoever. With not even a single win in the last 3 games combined, and out of the last 5 games, there's only 2 wins in it. That win being Southampton beating Ipswich and Leicester beating Spurs, which is kind of funny, considering that's Leicester's only win in what feels like the last 15 games. You could always rely on Spurs to be Spurs. Now, the reason why this is noteworthy is because, similar to last year, which was the 3 promoter sides, gave the worst performance in any Premier League history ever. But in terms of combined wins, combined points, last year between Luton Town, Sheffield United and Burnley was the worst Premier League season by any relegated sides. And the problem is that it may be happening again. It could be another worse performance. And I don't think it's by any means any coincidence that is, again, the 3 promoter sides. Now, to highlight something that I may be hearing now, the idea that it's always been like this. It shouldn't be easy to stay in the Premier League. It should always be a fight. I get that. I get how you may feel like it's that way, but it's not. Last season was the first time since 1998, and for the second time ever in the Premier League era, where the 3 promoted teams all went down again the following season in the top flight. The second time ever in over 30 years. So the question is this: should we be worried if it now happens again? Oh yeah, also I got some news for you guys that may be kind of weird. I now play semi-professional football. I don't think you'd ever expect me to say that, but I now play, as I presume you know, online or not. I now live in Czech Republic, so I no longer live in Poland, hence why the room is different. I know that. I now play for a team called FK Stenbeck, which is in the east part of Czechia, and I live in the city of Olomouc, which is the 5th biggest city in the country. I really enjoy my time here. Been here for a month. I've had a great welcome by the Czech people. I was even put in the newspaper and put in an interview, like national news. Why? Don't know, but I'll take it. So yeah, I now play for a team called FK Stenbeck. I play for the B team mainly, but I'm also training with the A team, and I'm also available for the matchday squads, and I'm registered. I'm not a semi-pro footballer by any means. They play in the 4th tier of Czech football, and the B team plays in the 6th tier. So yeah, I played for the B team yesterday. I played for 90 minutes. I played as a fullback, and I scored and I assisted, and we won 5-0. And I really am enjoying my time here. So if you do want to keep up to date with my football journey and my dream to play in Football Manager, if it ever comes out, then give FK Stenbeck a follow on SofaScore or something, and you can see how I do. Anyway, enough personal news. Comment down below your thoughts on the Premier League, the bottom 3, how bad really are they, and are you concerned about things? And if you are a Leicester, Southampton or Ipswich fan, tell me down below your thoughts. Like, subscribe, and Managerial designs for the best prints all made by myself, such as these 2 bad boys. This Bowen print is still, I believe, the most bought on the site. Cheers, West Ham fans. You bought me a Bugatti. I'm only kidding, by the way. I drive a Mini Cooper, so don't worry about that. Link down below, of course, is my own company, so you're helping me out, so thanks for that. And use code Vizeh for 15% off all items. And let's get into the video. Just in the previous round of games, every single one of these sides conceded 4 goals at home. Ipswich losing 4-1 at home to Tottenham Hotspur, Leicester losing 4-0 at home to Brentford, and Southampton losing 4-0 at home to Brighton and Hove Albion. Now, this weekend that just went by, again, Ipswich with a good performance away at Old Trafford, one that they could be proud of. They gave themselves a good shout. What was a 10-man United team. Granted, United are 14th in the table right now. They still couldn't get the job done, and despite playing as 10 men when it was 2-2, still end up losing the game 3-2. Leicester going to West Ham and losing 2-0, and Southampton playing Chelsea away, and well, you guessed it, conceded another 4 goals. The last time Southampton didn't concede 3 goals or more in a game to a side that isn't also in the bottom 3 was back in 2024. That's just over 2 months ago, which was a 2-1 loss away at Crystal Palace. When they play against any team, they get battered. When Southampton lost 4-0 to Brighton, the manager came out, Ivan Juric, saying that everything was wrong and the performance was a complete disaster. Saying in his own words, we have to be honest, they tried to play in one way and it was bad under Russell Martin. Now we try to change and it's still bad. The same feeling of resignation for relegation has already been set in stone for Leicester City too, where Ruud van Nistelrooy is saying such things when he lost 4-0 at home to Brentford, saying we have to accept that we are in a position now where every week we face a better team. Granted, keep this in mind, Leicester City, who I thought if any team would stay up this year, I think it would have been Leicester. I thought they would have been maybe a bit more experienced, that kind of know how to maybe get a result here or there to try to keep themselves up. And granted, I know this sounds a bit, odd to say because of how bad we're saying they are. However, they are still only 5 points behind Wolves. The issue is there's a 10-point gap between Wolves and 16th place Everton. So really, it's only Wolves that could be the only team that also goes down. And Wolves just have a bit more quality in their team, and you'd imagine they would just stay up. They're picking up wins right now. The 1-0 win away at Bournemouth recently, the 2-0 win at home to Aston Villa. Matheus Cunha is, of course, a rogue-like figure. He is a man that can drag them to safety, but also bury them in the same game. We've seen him give away stupid red cards time and time again. He's a player of course, brilliance, but there is still some petulism there with him, as he is still a young player. If you were to say that any team would stay up this year, you may point more towards Ipswich Town, just because they may have a bit more enthusiasm in them, maybe a bit more of a youthful element where they can feel like they've got nothing to lose. Maybe that's the only hope you can have on them. But the issue is, again, 1 point in the last 15 available, and that was a decent result away at Aston Villa, but when it comes to the games that kind of matter, they just don't show up. When you have Southampton at home, literally the definition of a must-win game, they fail. Now you may ask, why is that? Well, in that game in particular, Ipswich Town fans may be pointing to the likes of Aaron Muric for some of their problems this year, but you can't point at purely a goalkeeper for your failings. He may be part of the problem, but he's not the problem. So to provide some context in terms of how bad this year actually is, because last year everyone was saying Sheffield United, Luton, Burnley was the worst bottom three ever. This is worse. Sheffield United, Burnley and Luton Town picked up only 66 points between them last year, which was the worst bottom three in history, right? That is an entire 10 points fewer than what was on record prior. Ipswich, Leicester and Southampton are currently on course based on how they're performing right now, and in the last 5 games each, ain't looking like it's changing too much, to reach a total of 63 points, worse than that one as well. Comparing this stage of the season to what was Burnley, Sheffield United and Luton Town, they have fewer wins and have only conceded 4 less goals. Keep in mind that Sheffield United has, I think, the worst record of a defence in history. In case you forgot, they conceded 104 goals. And you know what the main concern is? You can maybe point at Sheffield United and Luton for being, okay, like, what do you expect? They were put in a bad situation. They didn't really spend too much money last year. Sheffield United lost some big players at the start of the year, so they really stood no chance. Losing Managerial and Sanderberg, who was one of the best players in the year in the Championship, can you expect them to then be amazing in the Premier League? Probably not. Luton Town as well. We all know their finances. They couldn't spend too much money. I think they spent around £20 to £25 million, which is a lot for Luton Town. But in terms of Premier League, that's just one signing. Burnley is the one you cannot excuse. We spent over 100 million in the summer, plus, and we, of course, were still as bad as we were. There's no excuse to Burnley. That was a complete failure. This year in the Premier League, you got Ipswich Town spending over £100 million. That's just in the summer alone, the 13th biggest in terms of transfer fees in the world. Now, of course, if you want to wear Ipswich basically still has the foundation of a team that they had back in League One. So similar to what people said about Nottingham Forest when they went up, they spent a ton of money on loans. They went all out to try to stay up, because the idea is that they also had players that was on loan that's no longer there, and also they had to let players go that they knew weren't good enough. They still had a championship team, even that stage, maybe a mid to low championship team, so they had to spend a ton of money. The same idea can be said about Ipswich Town, but the idea that you could spend the 13th most in the world, over £100 million, and you've got 3 wins to show for it in March. A similar story to what we had with Burnley last year, back-to-back times, over 100 million spent, no real change. It's just damning to me. Now you may say, oh, but they just need better transfer recruitment. I don't really know what you can really do at this stage, because Southampton and Leicester City also had different types of transfer strategies here. They weren't all the same. Southampton spent £99 million in fees, and Leicester spent £73 million. When you may say Leicester also probably had quite a good team as well, compared to what they really had in the Championship. Their team in the Championship had still some good players that probably shouldn't be down in the first place. Now, of course, Leicester did lose the likes of a Dewsbury Hall, which was an important part of their team last year as well, so keep that in mind. But all three teams spent a lot of money with all differing strategies. And you can't just point to the fact that, oh, well, you know, like they just got it wrong and it's all their fault as an easy excuse here. I think that's a lazy excuse. I think that the gap is just simply too far. As the teams that are already in the Premier League that keeps on getting their money each year can just get stronger and stronger and stronger, and they are too far ahead. The gap between these teams to what is the traditional top six is absolutely shortening. Christ, Spurs are 13th, United are 14th. There's only one top six team in the FA Cup right now. It's looked like for the first time in many years since Leicester City won it, where we may get a team that is not a traditional top six team winning the FA Cup. For the love of God, I hope that is the case. I also like to make some money from Mazzolo Designs for that as well. Appreciate it. Link down below. Now, you may say this, and I get it. You may say this is an excuse, Liam, because Southampton and Leicester, they were in Premier League for many years, during the Fellowship payment years, during the big money years. So that's not really an excuse, because they had all that money as well. They were just poor in the recruitment, and they made wrong decisions, and they were punished for it. Now, for that, I completely understand why you may say that is an excuse. And they do deserve to be called out for it. And they simply lost their way. What worked with them back in 2016 and onwards is no longer working now. They did lose their way because there were teams that did go down and came back up and thrived. For example, Fulham and Bournemouth, who are doing exceptional now. Keep in mind, Nottingham Forest literally almost went down, and they could have actually went down mathematically in a final day last year. Now they are in a Champions League race. So maybe this is all one big excuse. Of course, Forest had a big ton of money. They survived the first year. They almost went down in the second year. And now they're potentially going to be in European competition. Is the gap really that big? Do you just need a good core foundation of a manager to a unit of a team? Potentially, this is all one big excuse to make us feel all better about ourselves, perhaps. Do you just want to have a look at the other direction, where Burnley, Sheffield United was completely out of their depth in the Premier League? Luton Town, I can't even say was really out of their depth. They fought well, they had a good unit, just didn't have the quality to make it count, unfortunately. Luton Town are now bottom of the Championship, as we've already spoken on the channel, and Burnley and Sheffield United that were completely pathetic in the defence. Burnley now have conceded 0 goals in the last 12 league games. Forget the cup game against Preston. We didn't play our main team. Trafford wasn't in goal. Doesn't count. I'm coping, I know. But Burnley were pathetic in defence last year, and now they can't even concede a goal, or even look like it most times. It is hard to really get excited by the idea of who could come up, other than maybe the idea of Sunderland, or maybe a Coventry City in the playoffs, maybe. The idea is, can you see Leeds, Burnley, Sheffield United, Sunderland, any one of those 4 teams staying up next year in the Premier League? As someone that watches them week in, week out, I don't think there's a chance. I don't think Burnley can stay up next year, realistically, unless if there's a miracle. Same thing can be said for Leeds and Sheffield United and Sunderland. Leeds may be the best hope they can have because they've got maybe a bit more money there. But I got 2 words for that. Daniel Farke. Daniel Farke will not keep Leeds in the Premier League, so unless they sack him pretty early on and bring in a really good manager and can work miracles, then maybe they stand a chance. Farke won't keep Leeds in the Premier League. Neither do I think Scott Parker will for Burnley, and I don't think Ryder will for Sheffield United these days. And Sunderland are got some promising players, but I think they're still a very young and inexperienced team in a vast scheme of things. So the reality is, this will probably happen again next year. And at what stage would then this become an actual problem? Tell me your thoughts down below in the comments. Maybe I'm alone in this, but the divide is getting bigger and bigger. And tell me your thoughts down below in the comments. See you next time.